Everybody, it's John DePietro. I'm in Wallingford, Connecticut at the Oakdale Theater. I'm with my good friend Chuck Jacobs. And Chuck, you're the main guy. You're one of the big cogs in the Kenny Rogers machine. And it's been going on for how long?
Well, Kenny's been going as a solo career since 1976. And I came on in January 1979. So in about a month it'll be 39 years.
39 years. Amazing. So, you know what? Kenny Rogers just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. We see him come back from Australia, and 2 days later in the mainland, he's on the East Coast doing a show. Everybody's talking about the farewell tour, but that keeps going too. Tell us about your early years with the show and how it's changed over those years.
Well, in the early years, which is 79, 80, in the early 80s, Kenny was, when I came on the band, it was January 79, The Gambler had just been released. And so I always mentioned to Kenny whenever the opportunity comes that as soon as I came on the band, it really took off.
Right.
You know?
And he agreed with you.
Well, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, it's irrefutable evidence, right?
When I came on the band, you know, everything was BC, before Chuck. And then after that, it just took off.
Like the hockey puck curve in the business world.
That's right.
So we should say that you play bass.
Bass guitar.
Which looks like a guitar. Well, actually is a guitar.
Bass guitar.
But it only has 4 strings.
Yeah, bass guitar is an outgrowth of string bass. You know.
Can you play that too?
Contra bass. And I played that as well. But in fact, played it on this band a little bit when we did some songs that were appropriate for that. But it's a pain in the butt to carry around.
Yep.
So anyway, I play string bass.
In fact, you have many of your basses that whenever you get a new one, you post a picture of it on Facebook, right?
I have put a lot of them on Facebook, yeah.
So tell the audience what your Facebook page is so that they can...
Oh, that's right. Facebook.com, Chuck Jacobs Bass. Facebook.com / Chuck Jacobs Bass.
But doesn't it just say Chuck Jacobs?
No, I don't think so. I think it says Chuck, because there's another Chuck Jacobs, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a football player.
But there's really only one Chuck Jacobs.
There's only one Chuck Jacobs Bass, that's for sure.
And another person who's a member of the band that's in this room right now, but we'll stay on that side of the camera for now, has said to me, make sure you ask him why he's wearing a red hat.
That's right. The red hat is very significant.
Red hat.
The red hat, yeah. The red hat is very significant. And
we're not editing this, by the way.
Not only are we on a farewell tour, but currently we're on our farewell Christmas tour. And so hence the red hat, because it's Christmas time. And regarding the farewell tour, we started that in May of 2016.
Right.
And
coming up
what we were told is that there was about 160 places that wanted Kenny to play.
Yeah.
So couldn't do all of them in one year. So we did about 80 last year, and this year we've done 60. And so it's my understanding we're going to do some more next year as well. Okay. And I told Kenny, why don't you just keep going until...
We're going to run out of cities, though.
Yeah,
that's right. Go back.
That's right. He wants to...
How many farewell tours has Cher had? And
well,
the Who have had about 7. Their last 7 tours were all farewell tours, right?
Yeah, but they keep... this kind of...
Keep changing the band.
Keep dying.
Yes. I know, different guys. So let's go back to those early years when Kenny was doing arenas, sports stadiums.
They were quite exciting back then because Kenny had his own plane,
and
in fact, several different planes. And, and he had a farm in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Probably the most unique thing about the earlier days and the way we toured, I don't know anybody else that toured this way, but Kenny kind of liked to go home every night, see his wife and young baby boy. And so what we would do is we would play a show, let's say in St. Louis.
Yep.
We'd play a show, and get done with the show, we'd jump in the limousines and go out to the airport. Jump on his plane, fly back to Athens, Georgia.
Right around Atlanta.
And, just a little while out of Atlanta. You know, Athens is where the University of Georgia is, I think.
Yep.
So his farm was a few miles outside of that. And we'd get in the cars and drive out to Kenny's farm, and he had a guest house for the band. He had each one of us had a separate room. And so we would do a 2-week tour where
you're back at home.
Every day we'd go fishing or ride horses or whatever. And then about 6 o'clock we'd go out to the airport and jump on a plane, go do a show, and come back and start it all over again.
Now, for many, many years, when Kenny was doing the big shows, had a circular stage that lit up, and you guys were in the pit.
We called it the pit. Yeah,
Okay.
we were the
But now that you're doing the, what do you call it?
proscenium.
Proscenium stage, regular stage, folks. People can actually see you.
Well, somewhat. Yeah, we have. What do you call them? What do you call those things in front of us?
Fascias.
Fascias.
Fascia.
In front of it to give some design and depth to the
Yeah.
stage,
And
and they
hide
block a little.
And to
bit
hide,
of us.
and to hide you.
Yeah, and to
as
hide
well.
me because I'm short.
Right, exactly. But I understand that, Kenny's taken several international tours. And I understand that in England not too long ago, you started doing some, not pyrotechnics, but gymnastics on stage. Is that
Yeah,
true?
that's right.
Spinning around and
Well, not so much the spinning, but certainly jumping for sure.
jumping.
And we did a concert. It was probably one of the highlights of our touring. Was we played at Glastonbury, England. Which is a world-renowned festival, one of the biggest rock and roll festivals in the world.
Right after the Rolling Stones or right before?
Well, the Rolling
Right.
Stones were on the same stage as we were the night before.
The night before, okay.
So there was about 130,000 people or so. And it was ironic because two friends of mine had traveled from California to be at Glastonbury at that time, so they were in the audience. It just blew my mind. But anyway, at the end of the show, it was so energizing that I got up on Mike, the drummer's
We're going to be talking to him later.
stand.
Yeah.
And it was 2 or 3 feet high. And then at the very end of the show, jumped off. And my 60-year-old or 62-year-old knees held up.
Held up.
And I didn't fall down.
No hospitalization required.
That's right.
Okay. So, your favorite song that you like to play?
Well, that's hard to say. I think all of them are favorites because one is as good as another, And some people say, well, don't you get tired of playing them? And I honestly don't. And this is going to sound a bit self-serving or kiss ass, but I enjoy playing with the guys I work with. They're all excellent musicians, and it's world-class show. It's great to do. So having played Lucille, Ruby, The Gambler maybe 5,000 or more times, I still enjoy doing it.
And every rendition is somewhat similar, but there's probably little
Small
chords that you
nuances.
throw in.
Well, small nuances of difference, but there's a real challenge to doing the kind of show that Kenny does. Instead of some shows, you try to throw in new things or different things.
Yeah.
The challenge is to try to play it the same every night because the audience
expects.
that wants to see this show, they want it to sound like the record.
Yep, they want Lucille,
So
Lady,
we try to do that
Island.
as close as we can, and that's the challenge, is to try to make it sound fresh and not necessarily new, but fresh every time we do it.
Okay, so me being Italian, one of the topics that we have to talk about is food. And traveling around the world, where is the place that had the coolest food?
So there's soul. If you're a soul man, then there's turkey. That's turkey. And then we have tricolor. These are just not regular potatoes, but these are tricolor potatoes.
We've had unique foods in different areas. We were in Morocco and had very unique food there. In the Asian areas that we were, Singapore and Kuala Lumpur and
Well,
Thailand.
I understand that when you were in Singapore, you went to Kenny Rogers Roasters.
We did, yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. They're still popular over there. The primary investors for Kenny Rogers Roasters started in that area, and they still have restaurants in that area.
But I interrupted you, so go ahead.
But anyway, the unique foods are all over. I think overall, the guys in the band might agree that Australia and England seem to have, surprisingly, because England isn't known for
Good food.
That's really great food.
Right.
But when we go on tour over there, there's a couple companies that do tours and they travel with you.
Okay.
One's called Eat Your Heart Out, I think.
Oh, these are the catering
Companies
yeah.
that travel, and they had just great food. Now, one of them, my favorite story, is in England. This one, I think it was Eat Your Heart Out, and they had great food. And they had to have 3 or 4 entrees every night. And so we were in London playing the last show of the tour, and I was kind of late going to the catering, and I came in there and I sat down and I was eating my food, and I said to the person that was running the catering, I said, this is our last night. I want to compliment you on how good the food was. And she said, well, how do you know? And I thought, well, I was kind of puzzled. Why would she say that? I said, well, I'm not sure I understand. She says, well, you put so much hot sauce on it. How could you tell?
How could you tell? Okay.
And that was, amongst the other guys in the group, was a favorite thing that they'd like to always tease me with.
How about craziest venue? I know you've done state fairs and that type of thing, but what in your mind stands out as
Probably
remember that show?
The weirdest one that we did is we were invited to play in Mexico. I think it was Juarez, which is across the border from, if I remember correctly, El Paso.
Yep.
It later, well, fortunately, it wasn't quite as bad when we were there, but later became a real dangerous place.
Yep. Yep.
But they told us that we were playing in in the round in an arena. Well, it wasn't exactly an arena.
It was bullfight.
Well, that's what we thought.
Okay.
We thought it was a bullfight arena. And when we got there, it turned out it was a little smaller than that. It was a cockfighting arena.
Good Lord. Okay.
And the place where we played in the center.
You weren't the opening act, though.
No.
No. Okay.
The place where we played was actually a dirt floor. They brought plywood in, but that was
Cover
the
the
dirt.
blood.
It was a dirt floor where the
chickens,
cockfightings
yeah.
were.
Yeah.
It was just
Wow.
amazing. So that was probably the most unique one, I think.
Right. So when the time comes when they say, okay, this is the final show, what thoughts are going to be going through your mind when you're on the side of the stage ready to take a few steps up to the stage? What have you played that in your mind yet?
Well, I think so. I've given thought to what's it going to be like afterwards. I honestly think that the last show is going to be not a big deal. It's this group they're not a real emotional group. Like, oh my God, I'm going to miss you.
That's for sure.
It's just going to be. We're going to go out and do the last show.
See you guys.
And we'll see you later.
See you later.
That's going to be it.
That's it. So, with that being said, we want to thank Chuck Jacobs so much for being with us. We don't have the name of the show, but this is a segment that we're going to do something with. We'll get it to you. It'll be available on YouTube and in venues that people will be able to access.
Well,
for
hopefully
years
I
and
gave you
years to
something
come.
you can use.
Great. So that's that.